Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Crypto Cash. Thank you so much for joining me here today. This is your one-stop shop for cryptocurrency analysis, among many other things. Now, we're taking a look here today at ChainLink, which is simply a technical analysis. There's no fundamentals here. It's a really good fundamental, so please do your own research, of course. This is one of my coins that I do invest in on the side outside of my day trading and swing trading. And I could confidently say that it's got some good fundamentals. So look at that in your own time, of course, but this is a technical analysis only. This is for educational purposes only. I'm not a financial advisor. You always need to do your own research and take ownership of your trades. But the reason why I make these videos is to help educate you on best practice so you can trade for a lifetime instead of just for one day. So feel free to reference my Telegram community. I have a good group of folks there as well, growing every single day. We're learning a lot from each other, and it's a really good, constructive environment. I also have a Signal group as well if you'd like to kind of go on autopilot and essentially follow the same trades that I'm trading. I share all of my trades throughout the week. It's somewhere in the range of 2 to 4 trades per week on average. And I also provide, of course, best practice and help educate you along the way as to why I take these trades too, just so you can learn as much as you can. Link in the description below for that. But without further ado, why don't we just go ahead and reference the video. Let's check it out. All right, folks, let's go ahead and take a look at ChainLink. And just before we do, we always look at Bitcoin and Ethereum. So if you're new to the channel, we're going to take a look at those two here today, just to get a quick baseline on the market so we know exactly what's going on before we make an informed decision, because then we have all the information. And Bitcoin and Ethereum are the two largest coins out there. We got to respect that. So let's take a look at that here first. Now, Bitcoin, I always utilize the 4-hour chart just for a quick overview for Bitcoin and Ethereum. And this is TradingView desktop application. I might recommend you consider the paid version. I have a month free in the description below if you'd like to consider that. But it allows you to add a lot more indicators than just, I believe, 2 as a default. And I utilize a lot of different indicators, but specific ones for certain times. So we'll look at that here today as well. But more importantly, we're looking at Bitcoin 4-hour chart, and I have my simple moving averages enabled. Okay, what that just means is I have a 200-day simple moving average, this purple line here. The orange line is the 50-day simple moving average, and the price is currently above both. Now, the reason why those are effective is because the industry leaders, the whales, the bots, everything that trades and essentially impacts the market are the ones that are utilizing these same indicators. So just keep that in mind. I prefer the SMA over EMA, but that's just my preference. Now, right now, taking a look here, just so you know, we did break the resistance of 40,500. That was just broken here. Now, granted, this 4-hour time frame hasn't closed yet above, so it's technically not broken yet officially according to the 4-hour chart, but the 1-hour chart it did close above, so there's a good sign there. But more importantly, we got this inclining wedge pattern, right? So I think it's like an ascending triangle, you could refer to it as. And what that is, it just continued to follow along. It did exactly what we were hoping for. And almost every time before they break out, they always break down. So I waited for my signal group to go ahead and take entry down here at about 38,800, and then it came up and took some profit here today. So it was a really good day in that sense. But it's pretty standard for you for the price to drop down and try to just get shot right back up again after there's that squeeze, so to speak, that happens. Either way, we have a major support at 30,000. Hopefully we never have to test that again. A secondary support at 37,000, and now the current potential support at 40,500. Now I'd say potential support because, again, this 4-hour time frame, we have another hour and a half left. We're 2.5 hours into it. It hasn't closed above yet, so you don't want to consider that to be broken yet, even though it does appear that it's likely going to maintain. Okay, so just something to understand. Now, moving on to Ethereum, very similar scenario here as well, only, again, less aggressive, I guess you could say. Ethereum is essentially just doing poorly compared to Bitcoin, because if Ethereum was following Bitcoin to a T, it would be up here at about 2,900 instead of down at about 2,400. But regardless, the price did increase up above the 2,400 support. Same scenario as well until it breaks above and stays above. It will be considered a resistance, but it is likely, again, that as long as Bitcoin doesn't tank below 40,000 or 40,500 here in the next hour and a half, this candle should close above, considering that as a support level, not a resistance at 2,400. Price is above both simple moving averages and also major support at about 1720 and major resistance again at 2,900. So that's where Ethereum is at right now. Could be doing better, but it's still doing all right considering we do also have this increase here, this ascending wedge or triangle forming. All right, moving on to Link. Let's go ahead and take a look at the 1-day chart first. Now, I like to look at the one-day chart to get quick perspective on the average true range, so we know exactly what's going on, right? Because if you understand the range in which Link was doing, at previous price points, it's helpful to know the, kind of what's happening in the future, right? Or that helps us predict the future, for lack of better terms. That's what I utilize a lot, trying to understand what's going on, what's going to happen soon. And what I mean by that is we want to look at the time frames in which Bitcoin sold off. So we look at 40,500. That's the price where it's at right now on Bitcoin, right? So, if you take a line and draw that straight across here, the price action was much higher over here. So we got to keep that in mind. What I mean by that is the fact that we have some major sell-offs here from Bitcoin. We want to look at that first. So let's look here. So as you can see, 17th, 18th, this big red candle, that is essentially the first major sell-off from Bitcoin. Second major was the 22nd. It recovered quite well, dipped, and then ramped back up. This is a pretty common occurrence for a lot of altcoins. It jumps up right here where Bitcoin recovered a little bit in the market, and it came back up to I think low 50s, upper 40s. But generally speaking, Bitcoin went sideways right here, where a lot of good altcoins, the coins that have good fundamentals, did one of these here. They all increased, and it felt like it was altcoin season instantly. Altcoins all just went crazy. Bitcoin did poorly, essentially went sideways, and that's what happened. Ethereum took off at that time too. But if we look at this here and we continue on, we see the ever so familiar China candle, for lack of better terms, on the 19th, 18th/19th. The price retraced back down. Look at this. In one day, ChainLink went down 57%. That was a rough day for a lot of people, including myself. But regardless of how you look at it, the price went down, kind of just continued. So it's very similar to Bitcoin in that sense. So the reason why I like to look at this is the average true range before all this stuff happened was somewhere in the range of about 24 upwards of about 45. Okay, so there's a decent range there, in which I guess if you split the difference, you're looking at somewhere in the mid 30s. That being said, the price action being at about $22 right now, there's still room for growth, right? Because we're at 40,500 right here, and back in this range here, keep in mind, Link was upwards of 50, 60,000, okay? So do you think that we can hit 25 to say $30 with the price being at 40,000 right now for Bitcoin? No, Bitcoin would need to continue to go upwards about 50,000 for us to see that happen. Again, that's because Link works synonymous with Bitcoin in a lot of ways. Even though it's fairly independent, it's also fairly reliant. As far as RSI is concerned, we're looking pretty good there. Still under 70, so there's still more room for growth, so this bull run could continue. Also bear in mind too, we had a convergence on the 22nd. That's pretty standard for a lot of altcoins, considering that is the day after Bitcoin ramped back up and went from 29.5 upwards of 32, 33,000 in a 24-hour period. Let's go ahead and move on to the 4-hour chart now. I'm taking a look here at what we can see, and I marked this here, by the way, just so we can kind of see how it carries over. This is that convergence on the MACD on the one-day chart. Furthermore, we've got the nice, basically 12 hours of constant increase, which is good considering the fact that Bitcoin didn't have that kind of ramp up in the last 12 hours, right? We only saw that happen in the last, somewhere in the range of last 4 hours or less. So it's kind of a good sign there. It basically means that Link should have a tendency of continuing to take off, but it does need to go sideways for a little bit longer before it does that. We have this golden cross here that occurred here recently. That could have been part of the reason why the price increased as well. We've also got the RSI up over 70 at this point. Doesn't mean you necessarily have to sell, but oftentimes when you get up over 70, it's a consideration for trimming your position or just waiting for it to come back down and then exiting your position depending on what type of trading style you have. Convergence, we have a strong convergence on the 30th at 5 o'clock. Obviously this guy here, so I'll just go ahead and briefly mark that as well. Now, I like to mark these because when we look at the 1-hour chart and we take a look at the Ichimoku Cloud, oftentimes they correlate. I'm venturing to guess one of these two will be right there with it. And what I mean by that here is let's go ahead and take a look. Because if you're new to the channel, the Ichimoku Cloud is essentially an opportunity to tell you that you either have a buy signal or a sell signal, right? So if the price is above the cloud, it's a buy signal. Below, it's considered a sell. So let's go ahead and take a look here. Big coincidence. The price, look at that, within 2 hours of the Ichimoku Cloud telling us that we have a buy signal, the 4-hour chart told us we have a convergence on the MACD. Okay, so those are two things you want to try to identify when you're swing trading. Even when you're day trading, you look at that first. and then you decide to take entry because you know that there's bullish momentum overall or sentiment in the last 12 hours, right? We already identified that. But prior to that, just say you're swing trading, set up some indicators on the MACD to kind of get that that notification when it crosses. We have that convergence on the 4-hour chart because it really helps because that really picks things up. Or also, see if you can get a notification set up for passing the Ichimoku Cloud. In fact, I'm working on getting something like that set up myself in regard to just getting my own indicator for my Ichimoku Cloud. I have one currently for my EMA and View app notification. I share that with my patrons. But generally speaking, I think it'd be helpful to kind of see if you can pay attention to that. But regardless, if you take a look here, we got some pretty strong bullish momentum. This is the convergence on the 1-day chart as well. Also would have been a great indication of a buy signal. Okay, again, it's more macro, but it does work very effectively. This would have been probably the best indication of a buy signal is using the 1-day chart when it converged on the MACD. All right, what else we want to look at here? If you're new to the channel, you probably don't know, but if you've watched my channel a few times, we always look at TD sequential to kind of see if there's any exhaustion. Big surprise, take a look at this here. I love it when this kind of confirms. So if you take a look and you see, first of all, let's go ahead and just get rid of that. Clean it up here. So if you see the count from 1 to 9, this indicates we are likely to see a reversal now. So there's a strong chance that it could just go sideways for a little while longer, or it might retrace and come back down. Both are probable, but the likelihood of it continuing to increase right now is lower because of the fact we have a state of exhaustion, right? So TD sequential is really good about identifying market exhaustion. In this scenario here, we're 9 hours into a bull run, and it has to calm down and taper off before it continues higher. Commonly, that's how it works. It's not a foolproof plan. It's not 100%, but this is a pretty strong indication that it's going to retrace. If you look back here too, you see this 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, this number 9 here, and you see how the price came back down after that. It gave us an indication that the price will likely retrace. That should happen again. So what we should see based on this sentiment is the price should come out, and likely come back up once it resets around 7 or 8. Again, strictly hypothetical. We don't know for sure, but this is probable. I guess you could say it's more likely than not that we'll see a retracement and or some sideways action from Link. So I'd recommend, if you're considering taking entry, waiting a moment to I wouldn't say try to find the bottom because that's not possible, but wait for the price to retrace and come back down a little further, or at least go sideways and find one of the lower points in the channel. If you can identify lower lows and lower highs, then that would be a case in point where you'd want to wait to find the bottom. And I'll show you on the 15-minute chart how to identify that. So that's kind of just something to note here, okay? All right, so let's take a look at the 15-minute chart. And this is essentially my favorite indicator, well, two of my favorite indicators of all time. And if you're new to the channel, you'll learn this quite quickly. But you can probably already know where I'm coming from right now, or where I'm going rather, if you've seen this before. First of all, the View app is a volume weighted average price. It's kind of a day trader's tool. It's effective on the 15-minute chart or lower. That's this blue line here. Every 24 hours it resets. So if you see here, it kind of jumps up and corrects itself. Every day at 5 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, it'll reset because it has to. And the reason why is because it has standard deviation lines above and below that we don't see here, but they have to reset in order to kind of correct itself. And it does that because it's built on a traditional trading day, not a 24-hour cryptocurrency day, right? But regardless, it's still very effective, and it works as a consistent support and resistance level. So right now it's above support. So for the next hour and 20 minutes, the price is going to be over-exaggerated, right? So if you take a look here, that's about 12% higher than the VWAP, and that's significantly overpriced, in other words, or overbought. What that basically means is that the price is much higher than what the average volume should be, because the VWAP takes the volume in the last 24 hours, expresses it as a price. All right, so that's kind of what that's looking like there. So it's currently above support, great, that's typically a buy signal. The price is also above EMA. Now EMA is the exponential moving average. Simply put, it's a momentous indicator telling you when the price is above, like here, it bounces and bounces. That means that we're currently in a bull run. So there's a chance, a probability it could continue to go upwards because it did bounce off the EMA line a moment ago. All right, so basically just say what, 15, 30 minutes ago, the price bounced off EMA. That's a good sign. But you see when the EMA is lost here, it works as a resistance, it comes down. This is considered a shorting opportunity. But if you remember seeing on the 1 hour chart, the TD sequential told us we had a 9 right here. So this makes perfect sense why the price came down, okay? Again, a lot of little things you kind of just figure out over time, but every indicator is good in its own time frame. Okay, so my indication setup is on the 1 day chart and the 4 hour chart. we use the simple moving averages, the 50 and the 200. On the 4-hour chart, we also, of course, identify the MACD and the RSI if possible. Moving on to the 1-hour chart, simply put Ichimoku Cloud and, of course, TD sequential to identify exhaustion and make sure you're on the right side of the tracks. Now, at this point on the 15-minute chart, what we do is we want to look for confirmation. Now, confirmation for me, I mean, it's different for everyone, but to take this in example here, for example, confirmation, I feel, is making sure that you take an entry when the bulls are in control, right? If you're going on a long position, you want to wait for the bulls to be in control. So looking here, if you see this price action continue upwards, obviously the bulls are in complete control this whole time. But what you do is you wait for the price to be above VWAP. In other words, you have your support level, you break support, because oftentimes the price can reject at VWAP. So the price is above support right here. So that's check number one. Great. The price is above EMA as well. All right, perfect. So we got check number two. The last thing we want to look for is consistency in the candlesticks. So these two candles are closing green, one after the other. So this is an entry point right here. So that's right where I take entry, right at that point. Okay, so just say we take an entry there and we kind of held out and came up to the point in which we're at right now. That would have been a 10% gain on Link alone, just in a, what is that, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, maybe 6-hour period, right? Now, I only took 7% earlier with my signal group earlier today for Bitcoin, but had I been tracking Link and paid attention to these things, then that would have been a case in point. So again, just you're going to miss tons of opportunity, but the opportunities you do have, work from the 1-day chart all the way down to get the perspective so you know exactly what's going on. And again, always look at Bitcoin too, because at this point in time, if we're going to go ahead and kind of predict or project, where ChainLink will be, first of all, I mean, it's at 2240 right now. And bear in mind, when it was in the 50 to 60,000 range, it was at 24 upwards of 34. So do you really think that we're going to get past $30 per coin on Link in the next couple of days? Probably not, right? So I think this bull run, if it continues, which is hopeful, it will go sideways for a little bit longer. We've reached a state of exhaustion. We need to see at least another 8 to 10 hours perhaps of sideways action or retracement before it rounds back up again. We also need Bitcoin to continue to stay sideways above 40,500. It needs to close above that. Okay, so let's take a look here just again really quick. If this candlestick closes below 40,500 on the 4-hour chart, then this will not be closing above and is considered a resistance, right? So if this closes above, we're good. We broke that threshold and we should be all set for Bitcoin to stay above 40,500 and that to become a support moving forward. All right, so enough rambling from me. I know I kind of go off topic sometimes, but this is essentially the important stuff to note and to understand when you're trading at all times. I cover all this in my Signal group as well. We have a fantastic community. Feel free to reference that down below. In fact, the first of the month is the best time to try to get started, because the fact that you get the most benefit based on how Patreon has its billing cycle. Okay. Either way, if you join, great. If not, feel free to reference my Telegram community. That is a free service. There's definitely a lot of good options in there as well to get to know the community and learn as much as you can. So thank you so much for your time. We'll see you in the next video. You take care now. Bye-bye.